The next 23 slides show a very brief history of some of the most renowned astronomers from past and current times. Please understand that the information is very limited on their accomplishments. Most, if not all, have more accomplishments in their lifetime than I have room to show. A lot of the information these people gave the astronomical world is still valid today. When you consider that some of these people lived 300 to 400 years ago with very inferior equipment as compared to today, their accomplishments are certainly outstanding, even by today's standards. Nicholas Copernicus, 1473 to 1543, famous for formulating the heliocentric illustration of the universe. The heliocentric theory of Copernicus can be found on the revolutions of celestial spheres. The theory presented the argument that the Earth is not the center of the universe, and presented that the Sun directly affects the movement of the planets. Stephen Hawking, 1942 to 2018, famous for the Hawking radiation theory. Using quantum mechanics and the general theory of relativity, he combined the two fields of study to explain cosmology. He also proposed that black holes produce radiation. This radiation from the black holes is known as Hawking radiation. Galileo Galilei, 1564 to 1642, famous for being the father of observational astronomy. As the father of observational astronomy, Galileo identified the four moons of Jupiter, observed and provided an analysis of sunspots, and presenting the theory of heliocentrism. Carl Sagan, 1934 to 1996, famous for the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence program, and the TV series Cosmos. Carl Sagan made it easy for the ordinary people to understand and enjoy science, because he described that there were billions upon billions of stars, when an enormous quantity of anything now is again described and known as a Sagan. Johann Gottfried Galle, 1812 to 1910, famous for discovering the planet Neptune. While working at the Berlin Observatory, Galle first observed and viewed Neptune, the eighth planet from the Sun. Later in his life, he provided methods to calculate planetary orbits. Johannes Kepler, 1571 to 1630, famous for his work in the field of astronomy and mathematics. Acceptance of Kepler's laws and theories were not immediate. His book, Epitome of Copernican Astronomy, became the main source of his ideas for many in the early 17th century. Michael E. Brown, 1965, famous for identifying Pluto as a TNO, or a trans-Neptunian object. As a professor in planetary astronomy, Brown is credited as the man who killed Pluto. He and his team were responsible for the discovery of TNOs, objects that orbit the Sun beyond Neptune. Eris, a dwarf planet, was sitting between Neptune and Pluto, thus making it the ninth. The debate still goes on. Tycho Brahe, 1546 to 1601, famous for his comprehensive work on astronomical and planetary observations. Tycho was popular during his time both as an alchemist and as an astronomer. He was the last remaining astronomer who made observation using the naked eye. He did not use a telescope. Christian Huygens, 1629 to 1695, famous for providing an explanation for Saturn's rings. The explanation that Huygens gave for the rings of Saturn was that it was a solid, flat, elliptical ring that touched nothing. His last book, Cosmosaurus, he suggested the possibility of extraterrestrial life on other planets. Edwin Hubble, 1889 to 1953. Famous for having the space telescope named after him. Hubble made observations of the galaxies beyond the Milky Way. His discoveries include Triangulum and the Andromeda Nebula. Thomas Gold, 1920 to 2004. Famous for the steady state theory. Gold and three of his colleagues formed a hypothesis related to the creation of the universe that was known as the steady state theory. The steady state theory states that the universe is homogeneous and new matter is continually being created at the center of as the universe expands and the universe remains unchanged. This theory is losing favor because it cannot explain the background radiation. Big Bang says that this was created during the Big Bang itself. William Herschel, 1738 to 1822. Famous for the discovery of infrared radiation and the planet Uranus. William Herschel's fame is based on his identification of Uranus and two of its satellites, Oberon and Titania. In addition, and perhaps by accident, he discovered the existence of infrared radiation when using filters during his observation of sunspots. Joseph Louis Lagrange, 1736 to 1813. Famous for Lagrangian points. In an effort to explain the orbital configuration of a small object that is affected by gravity, Joseph Lagrange provided a solution in mathematical terms, which is known as the Lagrange points. Pierre-Simon Laplace, 1749 to 1827. Famous for the nebular hypothesis and mathematical astronomy. Laplace is believed to be one of the earliest astronomers to suggest the existence of black holes in space. He also presented a theory that explained the origin of the solar system, the nebular hypothesis. Edmund Halley, 1656 to 1742. Famous for having a comet named after him, Halley's Comet. Halley calculated the orbit of a comet that could be seen from Earth every 76 years. It appears again in 2061, if calculations are correct. George Gamow, famous for the Big Bang Theory. The discovery of the explanation of quantum tunneling via alpha decay is attributed to Gamow. Interestingly, he postulated further what has been known as the Big Bang Theory. Caroline Herschel, 1750 to 1848. Famous for the discovery of comets and one named after her, the 35P Herschel-Richellet comet. Sister of astronomer William Herschel, Caroline discovered and calculated the orbit of a comet known as the Herschel-Richellet comet. The orbital period of this periodical comet is said to be 155 years. In all, she discovered 5 comets. Clyde Tombaugh, 1906 to 1997. Famous for discovery of Pluto and some asteroids. During this time at the famous Lowell Observatory, Tombaugh discovered the planet Pluto and the Kuiper Belt in 1930. He also contributed to science by his discovery of asteroids, 14 in all. Annie Jump Cannon, 1863 to 1941. famous for the stellar classification system and Harvard classification schemes. Annie Cannon developed a system to classify and organize stars according to the temperatures they produced. More importantly, the stellar classification system was also the work of this American astronomer. Charles Messier, 1730 to 1817, famous for the Messier Astronomical Catalog, provided astronomers a catalog that provided information whether an object viewed in space is stationary or moving. This catalog contained 110 objects. Thus, it was called the 110 Messier objects, along with nebulae and clusters of stars. Fritz Zwicky, famous for the theory of supernova and dark matter. It was Zwicky who brought us the word supernova and presented a theory that these were stars that became neutron stars. He also proposed the theory of the existence of dark matter, or unseen matter in space. Jocelyn Bell, famous for the discovery of pulsars. The first pulsar, a neutron star that produces electromagnetic radiation, was identified and discovered by Bell. She later discovered 3 more.